In the high-altitude silence of the research lab, trust is the only currency that matters. Elias was a nobody, a PhD candidate working 20-hour shifts on a breakthrough NLP architecture. He thought he was building the future of linguistics. He didn't realize he was actually building a $100 million exit strategy for the man he called mentor. On a Tuesday at 3:04 a.m., Elias's root access was revoked. No warning, no error code, just a terminal screen that went cold. When he followed the trail, he didn't find a system glitch. He found a ghost. The evidence of a decade's worth of work didn't just vanish, it was laundered. We've reconstructed the ledger. Stay tuned, because the professor's $100 million miracle is about to face a forensic autopsy. Professor Marcus Thorne was a master of institutional seduction. He didn't just recruit students, he harvested them. He identified Elias's superpower, a unique ability to map subaudible linguistic patterns, and built a Trojan horse of empathy. Thorne promised Elias a partnership, a legacy that would outlive them both. He spent years grooming Elias, providing him with the isolation of an elite lab and the raw computing power of university server clusters, all while quietly building a legal cage. In the shadow world of elite research, collaboration is often just a polite term for intellectual harvesting. Thorne presented a standard NDA during a period of peak exhaustion for Elias, a common tactic in corporate extractions. To a tired grad student fueled by caffeine and the desperate hope of a tenure track recommendation, the document looked like harmless bureaucracy. To a forensic auditor, it was a total transfer of intellectual property. The paperwork funneled every line of code Elias wrote into a shell company registered in Delaware, Apex Neural Holdings. Thorne wasn't just a teacher. He was the architect of a shell game extraction. He understood a fundamental truth of the system. The person who signs the grants owns the ghost in the machine. While Elias was obsessing over the neural weights of the model, Thorne was obsessing over the corporate veil. He was building a mechanism that would allow him to sell Elias's life's work to the highest bidder without Elias ever receiving a single cent or a line of credit. Thorne didn't just steal the technology, he attempted to delete the person who created it. We followed the money from the Silicon Valley acquisition, a massive $100 million wire transfer, directly into the accounts of Apex Neural Holdings. The buyer was a Tier 1 tech conglomerate that believed they were acquiring a revolutionary, ethically sourced AI architecture. They were convinced they were buying a miracle. They didn't know the core of the engine was stolen property, extracted through a breach of academic trust. But Thorne made a fatal mistake. He forgot that Elias didn't just write code. He wrote the audit trail. Thorne's signature move was a technique we call pulse layering. To move the $100 million without triggering institutional red flags, he fragmented the payout into thousands of microtransactions. He disguised these payments as offshore research grants and consultancy fees spread across a dozen European jurisdictions. He hoped that by creating a digital fog of small, legitimate-looking transfers, the lump sum would become invisible to auditors. Before we reveal the digital signature that brought Thorne down, we want to hear your theories. How many Apex Neurals do you think are currently hiding in the Delaware corporate registry? Is this a one-off theft, or the standard operating procedure for the global elite? Let us know in the comments. We're monitoring the data. Thorne's pulse layering was sophisticated, but it couldn't hide the truth buried in the mathematics of the model itself. Elias was smarter than Thorne realized. Fearing exactly this kind of betrayal, Elias had planted a digital signature within the model's weights. A watermark hidden in the very math that defined the AI's intelligence. A forensic scan of the $100 million software revealed Elias's private Git-hash embedded in the core architecture. It wasn't just a copy. It was a direct, watermarked theft. Every time the model processed a request, it was executing code that Elias had signed in the dead of night. Thorne had sold a product he didn't understand, containing a signature he couldn't see. He had attempted to launder a fortune, but he had left the most damning piece of evidence inside the vault. The fatal flaw wasn't Thorne's greed. It was his technical illiteracy. He was a politician masquerading in a lab coat. He was so focused on the financial exit that he never bothered to look under the hood of the engine he stole. He didn't realize Elias had left a logic bomb in the code, a subtle, hidden API vulnerability that only Elias could trigger from the outside. When the news broke of the $100 million sale, Elias didn't waste time with a lawsuit. He knew the university's legal team would spend a decade burying him in motions. He knew the system was built to protect men like Thorne. So Elias bypassed the courts and went straight for the jugular. He activated the bomb. During a live global demo for the tech conglomerate's major shareholders, the miracle model began to malfunction. But it wasn't a random glitch. It began hallucinating data that it was never supposed to know. Instead of linguistic analysis, the AI began outputting Professor Thorne's private offshore bank account numbers, the internal ledger of Apex Neural Holdings, and the original, unredacted NDA that proved the theft. The audit didn't just find the money, it made the money speak on a global stage. The fallout was instantaneous. The tech giant, realizing they had purchased stolen IP and were now facing a PR catastrophe, pulled the plug on the acquisition within hours. Thorne's empire collapsed in 48 hours. $100 million in assets were frozen by federal investigators. The university, moving with the speed of an institution protecting its own reputation, scrubbed Thorne's name from the faculty list and locked his office before the sun went down. A legacy was deleted in the time it takes to reboot a server. Thorne is gone, but the mechanism he used remains active. For every Elias who leaves a logic bomb, 1,000 others are harvested in the silence of research labs across the globe. The shadow financial system doesn't just launder money, it launders human innovation, turning the dreams of nobodies into the exit strategies of the elite. The academic extraction is just one wing of the shadow economy. Thorne used Delaware shells to hide his theft, but that's a game played by world leaders and billionaires every single day. To see how a single law firm in Panama made the wealth of the world's elite disappear, click the video on your screen now to see our deep dive into the Panama Papers. This is the Audit Files. Subscribe and follow the money.